Hello, this is Chef John from foodwishes.com with red, white, and blue cheese balls. That's right, these might not look like it, but you never want to judge a ball by its cover, because inside we are pairing fire-roasted red pepper, fresh white sweet corn, and blue cheese. And not only is the inside amazing, but these are also getting rolled in all sorts of extra deliciousness, which really elevates these and maybe also causes some color-related confusion, but still totally worth it. So with that, let's go ahead and get started by me showing you the safest and easiest way to cut fresh corn off the cob. And that involves placing a ramekin or small cup at the bottom of a big bowl. And then by holding our cob at the tip vertically like this, it's going to be very easy to go around with a sharp knife, slicing off those tender sweet kernels. And this way we don't have to worry about hitting the sides of the bowl with the knife. And more importantly, leaving our fingertips fully intact. And in case you're wondering, one large ear of corn is going to give you about a cup of kernels, depending on the size, of course. And by the way, if you've never had raw, fresh, sweet corn, you're really in for a treat, since it has this great, juicy, crunchy texture. And if it's in season, it should be sweet like candy. And it's going to pair perfectly with that salty, sharp blue cheese, as well as the bitter sweetness from our smoky, fire-roasted red pepper, which, by the way, is the next thing we're going to prep. And while I usually do this inside on the gas burner, this time I'm going to show you an alternative method using a blowtorch. And what I have here is an extra large variety that I bought to kill weeds in our rock garden, which, by the way, it doesn't work at all for. But what it's really good for, as long as you're on some heat-proof surface, like the grate of this fire pit, is charring the skin off a pepper. And not only is this very fast and efficient, I gotta say it's super fun, especially when you catch your neighbor peeking over the fence to see what the heck you're doing. And yes, it's a total coincidence that Michelle just cleaned the stovetop, and she gave me the side eye as I walked over towards the range to do this. But anyway, the point is a giant blowtorch works wonderfully, as would a regular standard blowtorch. It just takes a little bit longer. And then just like if we did this inside on the stove, once that's been thoroughly charred, we'll go ahead and cover that tightly, and we will let that steam and cool down, at which point you know the drill. We will rinse or rub that charred skin off the pepper, and then dice it up, at which point it's ready to use in our cheese balls. Speaking of which, the base for that is going to be a pound of cream cheese. And we really do want to use regular cream cheese, the kind that's firm when it's cold. Okay, that soft whip stuff is not going to work for this procedure. But anyway, to our pound of cream cheese, we will add a little bit of soft butter, which, yes, is going to add a little bit of richness. But also, as you know, butter gets really hard when it's cold, and that's going to make the texture of these cheese balls just a little bit firmer. And then to this base, we will add a little bit of kosher salt. Right, not too much because blue cheese is salty. We will also do some freshly ground black pepper. And yes, you guessed it, a few shakes of cayenne. At which point we can go ahead and add our red, white, and blue, in the form of our roasted red pepper that we've diced up nice and small, our beautiful sweet white corn, and then about a quarter pound of crumbled blue cheese that you have most definitely crumbled yourself, which, by the way, is super easy if you freeze it first. And I know they do sell it already crumbled up, but please trust me when I tell you, they are not crumbling up the best blue cheese. So personally, I recommend getting something nice, and then pop it into the freezer until it's firm, at which point, like I said, it's very easy to crumble up or even chop up with a knife. But regardless, once everything's in the bowl, we'll go ahead and give that a mix until thoroughly combined, which is going to take a minute or two, since we're going to want to start out kind of slowly. Otherwise, half these ingredients are going to end up on the table. But once it starts to all come together, we can get a little more aggressive, and we can start folding and turning and stirring until we are 100% certain everything's been thoroughly and evenly mixed. And then once that's been accomplished, what I like to do is wrap this and pop it in the fridge for a few hours until it's chilled thoroughly and firms back up, which I think makes it a little easier to portion. But if you're short on time, you can scoop this now if you have to. But anyway, that's up to you. I mean, you guys are after all the Leslie Stalls of your red, white, and blue cheese balls. And speaking of 60 minutes, that's exactly how long I pop mine in the fridge for. And then once that mixture has been chilled, we'll pull it out. And we can start scooping about 1 tablespoon portions onto this lined sheet pan. And obviously, you can make these as big as you want. But fair warning, these are extremely flavorful and fairly decadent. So I think a relatively small portion is the way to go. And then, just like when we mix this up, if we have time, I like to pop these in the fridge until they're nice and cold and firm before we try to roll them. But again, you don't have to. As long as you're able to form them, and you chill them before you serve them, they should be fine. But I had time, so I popped mine in the fridge for about an hour, and then proceeded to roll those into 3 coatings of my choice. The first of which were some very finely chopped roasted almonds. And not only does the coating add texture and obviously flavor, but since this style of cheese ball is relatively soft even when chilled, the coating really is necessary to be able to handle these. And I don't just mean when you form them, I mean when you actually serve them. Okay, we want these to melt in our mouths, not in our hands. So I went ahead and did some of those in the almond, and then switched to my second coating, which would be some beautiful green freshly sliced chives. And of course, any other kind of fresh green herb would work here. Or something like parsley or dill would be very nice. But with these ingredients, I think that subtle, oniony flavor of the chive is really fantastic. And that's it. We will close the show with our headliner, which will be some finely minced up crispy cooked bacon. And as usual, we'll want to prep about twice as much bacon as we think we need, because the next person that's able to do this without eating half the bacon will be the first person. So plan accordingly. And that's it. Once our coating phase has been completed, we'll go ahead and cover those and pop them in the fridge, since we really do want those fully chilled when we serve them. And while that happens, we can tidy up a little bit, and we can put on our face and wait for our guests to arrive, at which point we can serve these up on some kind of attractive platter. Okay, I recommend mango wood, but if you can't find that, feel free to substitute with papaya. And that's it, our red, white, and blue cheese balls, which look like red, green, and tan cheese balls, are ready to enjoy. And I started with the bacon one, because that's my favorite, and it is everything you'd imagine it would be. All right, above and beyond that smoky, savory, meaty coating, we have the irresistible combination of that smoky, sweet red bell pepper, that fresh, crunchy, even sweeter white corn, which are both an absolutely perfect pairing with that funky, tangy, sharp blue cheese. Oh yes, that, my friends, is a magnificent bite of food. And if I had a nice cold beer in my other hand, I would be about as happy as I could possibly get. So that was incredible. And then I moved on to try one of the chive versions, which also works wonderfully for all the same reasons. Not to mention chives and cream cheese are always great together. So I thoroughly enjoyed that one as well. And then as sort of a dessert course, I went ahead and finished up with the ones rolled in almond. Since as you probably know, it is very traditional to finish a great meal by serving cheese and nuts. But anyway, that's it. What I'm calling red, white, and blue cheese balls. And if that name seems a little too long, these also go by the name Freedom Balls. But regardless of what you call them, or what you coat them with, I really do hope you give these a try soon. So please follow the links below for the ingredient amounts, a printable written recipe, and much more info as usual. And as always, enjoy.